Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth and final installment of our Fireside Chat series, Emerging Market Reimagined, Quality, Diversity, and New Opportunities with Mawer Investment Management. I'm David Braham, Senior Executive Director of Thought Leadership and Market Intelligence at Institutional Investor. Joining me today is Rob Campbell, Board Director and Institutional Portfolio Manager at Mawer Investment Management. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Given the growing importance of AI, ML, and semiconductor supply chains, what structural advantage or risk do emerging markets face, and how does TSMC fit into this evolving landscape?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're critical. And as you mentioned, you've got to start with TSMC. So maybe some history. If we go back 60 years or 50 years, Taiwan's economy in the 1970s was largely based on agriculture. And where they did have manufacturing, it tended to be low end and very thin margin. And of course, security was a challenge. Jack Nicholson has this great opening line in The Departed where he says, "I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me." And that's kind of the mindset that Taiwan adopted at the time too. They wanted to be more in control of their destiny. And so in what turned out to be a stroke of truly masterful foresight, the government decided to make strategic investments in technological capabilities, specifically semiconductors, as a pathway to a more secure and wealth-creating economy. But since they lacked any meaningful IP in integrated circuit design, the emphasis was on the manufacturing. And this ultimately resulted in the formation of what's arguably one of the most important companies in the world today, this pure play foundry in TSMC. TSMC is our largest position. It really hits everything that we look for on a bottom-up basis. It's a wealth-creating business. It's got a great management team, and we think it still trades at a discount to its intrinsic value. It's got among the most formidable competitive advantages in the world. But perhaps more interestingly, beyond TSMC, there's a whole ecosystem of very specialist suppliers and service providers that has grown up over the years with TSMC in Taiwan and that have effectively become extensions of TSMC's own capabilities. And so we're talking smaller companies. They might provide materials, consumables, niche tools, on-site technical services. They're very highly tailored to TSMC's processes. Individually, these businesses might be small or mid-cap in size, but together, collectively, they form this industrial cluster that is basically impossible to replicate or to displace. And this is one of the reasons why Taiwan has such geostrategic significance today. And for a lot of these smaller companies, though they operate in these hyper-specialized niches, many of them command the same types of dominant market shares and competitive advantages as TSMC itself, thereby providing the types of attractive investment opportunities that we're looking for. Now, the most recent phase of AI adoption has highlighted another pressure point in the chain, which is memory. Training and running large models, extraordinarily memory intensive. This goes beyond Taiwan, by the way, in terms of the key players in memory. But what we've seen over the last several months is that this memory has become a bottleneck. Supply has really struggled to keep up with a huge amount of demand. And this has elevated the strategic importance of memory manufacturers as well as the packaging specialists, many of which, as I mentioned, are based in and around emerging Asia. But I think the point is that it just reinforces how tightly coupled the various parts of the semiconductor stack have become. One last point to leave you with, David, and I think it's a really important one, is just the importance of trust in this ecosystem. It's perhaps not a terribly visible asset, but it's critical. When a company like TSMC or Nvidia, for that matter, designs a new process, a new chip, it's really working with its partners. It's sharing with them intellectual property, timelines. There's a huge amount of reputational risk. The cost of failure gets higher and higher as the technology advances and can cascade really through the value chain. And so what we've seen is that as the stakes have gotten higher, as the downside of downtime of AI servers becomes that much more expensive, the value of reliable, deeply embedded partners that you can trust, that you've worked with for a long period of time, has just gotten higher, and we're seeing the competitive advantages of those businesses really increase. And so for investors in emerging markets, there is a question as to, look, are we in just this period of demand that will go away? Are we in a bubble, a demand bubble? When are we going to see the returns on these investments that are taking place today at scale that will justify these continued investments? Absolutely, these are concerns and risks and things that we need to think about with respect to the valuations. But where we're spending a lot of time is trying to differentiate between companies that are perhaps enjoying a bump in demand today, but if that demand goes away, they'll go right back to where they were, which might be different than some of these smaller niche, hyper-specialized players who, because of their technological leadership, yes, they're seeing that bump in demand today, but actually the quality of the business is getting stronger because of that trust, because of that specialization. And of course, we know these are cyclical industries. And so accumulated process knowledge, long-dated customer relationships, and cultures of operational excellence, these are things that we prize and things that are increasingly hard to replicate.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This concludes our Fireside Chat series, Emerging Markets Reimagined, Quality, Diversity, and New Opportunities with Mawer Investment Management. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care.